Gomez inspires and I love people. And I came here to impact your life. Everybody that's here right now, you're here for a reason. So what do you have to do? Who do you have to become to obtain that millionaire dream? See, to have more, you must be more. There's a future you waiting for you to come out. There's a future you that's counting on you. Your family, they're rooting for that future you.
Welcome back to another episode of the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, where we motivate you, we inspire you, and today we're going to educate you. A dear friend of mine, actually not just a friend, but a brother, but a mentor to me, and he really inspired me when I was able to come across Bob Harrison, otherwise known as Dr. Increase. What an honor to have you on the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, my dear friend Bob. How you doing today?
Hey, good to see you, man. We had such a good time visiting with you two in August down to San Antonio. That was just so special. That Mexican restaurant you took us to. Oh my goodness, I can't wait to get back there.
Well,
I'm
Bob,
just so impressed with you, Daniel, and all that you're doing to impact so many people. It's such an honor to be with you today.
well, thank you. It's an honor to host you on our show. And I know the beautiful soul and beautiful person you are, Bob. Can you do me a favor? Can you introduce yourself to the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, please?
Introduce myself? Bob
Yeah.
Harrison, Dr. Increase. Yay!
Woo! Well, you know what? I that's what I love about you, right? Bob it has these amazing events, and the world knows you as Dr. Increase. And I think when I connected to you, I'm a car dog. Bob Harrison used to own a car dealership. Where did the term and your name, Dr. Increase, come from, Bob?
I searched for some time to try and find a word that would define a little bit deeper, like taking the peel off of a something deeper word than success or prosperity that would illustrate what I felt my teaching was, because it wasn't just about getting more; it was about getting more to make a difference. And
Mm.
so I was just really in a search, and I was using words interchangeably: prosper, success, increase. And one time I was teaching at a conference in Charlotte, and when I was introduced for the second session, the announcer said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to the man that I'm now going to refer to as Dr. Increase." And as I walked on stage, it just dropped to me, "That's your name." So I checked on it. It was available. So I trademarked it with the federal government, and that's been my name ever since.
I love it. I love it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is a part of the show where I say, get out your paper, get out your pen, because Dr. Increase is going to drop some massive wisdom. And you know what we say here at the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show? What you write down, you retain more of the information. And I want you to go take notes, go back and study it, and then you're going to share this episode with somebody. So I love what
Hey,
you
I'm gonna
said.
say that, Daniel. I not only when I'm with a VIP, which I oftentimes get to do because, I've traveled in the world's largest success seminars, and I'm with prime ministers and premiers and people like that. I not only take notes, when I get home, I can put those notes into my computer with their name on it. And I have a file, VIP notes, and I can
Yes.
look back and find the interviews and what I learned from that person 10, 20 years later. I still can remember it by going back to it. So I would say it's great to recommend that people take notes, but also get a memory system so you can access
Mm.
those notes in the future and they can continue to impact you.
Yes, yes, I love that. You know, I take a lot of notes from you, and one thing I love about what you just said is that there's nothing wrong with wanting more.
Right.
But you not just more, you wanted a name that was gonna signify who Bob Harrison was. And Dr. Increase, you definitely give a lot to charity, you give a lot to people. Why do you feel a lot of people have a trouble receiving the more in their life, Bob?
I think because so many people, two areas. Number one, they've been pre-programmed since childhood birth to think in a life of existence and survival and getting along and making a living. And that becomes their operating system, and they function within their operating system. In other words, all their ideas, their dreams, their concepts, their vacation plans, everything operates within that existing belief system. And they fail to recognize that there's a whole nother world out there beyond that. So they live within that system thinking that's where there's to be. So that's the number one. Number two, there's a group of people that over time they've been taught that having more than enough takes from other people. and that it robs it. So they don't want to be in that. So either one of those two convert into invisible barriers that we operate and we think and we dream and we plan in. And so what we try to teach people is it's only when you get beyond those barriers that you can live a life of more. And it's only when you live a life of more, you can be more of a blessing. And so we try to teach people how to find those invisible barriers, how to break their power off of their life, and then live a life of greater abundance.
I love what you're saying. Eh, I just had this run in myself, and I think that when you think because I want more, it's taking from somebody else. It comes from a place of scarcity and lack, and not enough. And one thing that I learned from you that I love, it reminds me of the character of God. You said this in one of your teachings was, look at your fingernails. Do you tell your fingernails to grow? And you were like, no. Do you tell your hair to grow? No, your hair grows. So the very nature of God that I learned from you was the fact that our hair grows by itself, the fact that our nails grow by themselves is that the character of God is multiplication and increase.
That's right.
So when you really look at your own hair in the morning, you realize, man, I don't have to tell my hair to grow, it just grows. I had to realize that myself this past weekend because as you get used to these bigger numbers and bigger things that God's doing in your life, there is a mental lid where you stop yourself and saying, wow, should I be doing this? And reality, the only lid we put is the lid we put on ourselves. What did you do to break some of those perspectives like you're saying and those that conditioning that you received? Because you're doing amazing things and going back to what you just said about the dinner we just had, you're still even at your young age, you're still challenging yourself to go to another level. And that's what I admire about you because you're just so open-hearted to what the new of God wants to do, regardless of what young age you may be.
Well, you gave me several directions to go, but let's start with the first one. Stephen Covey, in his book Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, which was a best-selling book that really impacted me, he talks about one of the things that keeps people from being successful is what he calls fixed pie thinking. And fixed pie thinkers think that if somebody gets a piece of my pie, it means I have less. Therefore, anytime I want to give a bigger piece of my pie to somebody, I've got to think in terms of could I exist with less? And so I only respond when I'm deeply emotionally involved in something or I believe in the cause or whatever, because then I'm going to have less so they can have more. But see, on the other hand, increased thinkers, they just believe that the pie gets bigger. So if they give a pie, they give a piece of pie to somebody, that whole pie gets bigger. It's like if I get married, all right, and then I find out that my wife is going to have a baby. Do I have to take some of the love from my wife in order to have love for the baby? No. Our love field gets bigger. So we might love our wife just as much, if not more, but we also have a whole realm of love for the baby. Well, that's the way that our thinking is. So we've got to break that fixed pie thinking and just realize that as we get bigger, our whole world gets bigger. And then the world that we can impact gets bigger around us.
Ladies and gentlemen, where in your life right now, maybe you're watching this on YouTube, maybe you're listening to us on Spotify, where do you have fixed pipe thinking? You know, the irony of that, Bob, is that I used to think that way when my daughter was a child. I remember I told my wife, I don't want to have any more kids because how can we love more kids? And when my son Julian was born, it's like God gave me more love. It's like that whole ideology of wherever that came from my own thinking. I lived exactly what you said. Like, no, I want one kid because how can I be selfish and not share my love with more than one kid? But to realize is the more children you have, the more love God gives you to produce. And I want you to hear this, ladies and gentlemen. Think about what Bob's talking about, right? We're not just talking about finances. We're talking about the more love you give, the more love you get, the more joy you have, the more joy you have. And it's not just increase in one area of life. I think so many people when they think of increase in wealth and success, they limit themselves to finances, which is definitely a part of the increase. How did you notice within your own self, right? Because I like to speak from experiences. How did you notice in your own self that as you increased, it wasn't just one part of your life, there was many attributes of your life that increased.
Let me read you a testimony of somebody that's sent me this. I thought it was really neat, and it ties in exactly what you said. I thought of this as we were getting ready for the broadcast, so I had them print it for me. This guy wrote me, he said, within 6 months, My business more than doubled. Now there's the finances, but listen to the rest. I got more involved in my church, spiritual. He said, my marriage has never been better. My wife and I are running around like two teenagers in love. Relationship. I've lost 75 pounds and I've been totally cured of cancer. See, when his thinking changed, every area of his life was impacted. And that's the real key. It's not just a financial message. It's a message that changes the way we live, the way we see life to ourselves. But then beyond that, it's the ability to make a difference in the lives of other people. My 5 children, they're blessed. They live incredible lives. Why? Because they were raised with increased thinking. My 16 grandchildren, they're all increased thinkers. You talk to them, you get around them. You can tell they're different just because of that mindset that they have in their lives. And so when we grab this, whatever we get, if we're negative, we're going to make our generations and people around us negative. But if we become increased thinkers, we impact everybody around us, so they start to think and live differently also.
I love what you said. So you said the way you see life unto yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, how are you seeing life unto yourself? Are you seeing life as limited? Are you seeing life as unhappy? Are you seeing life as the economy is the issue? No, think about this. It's not the economy. It's the way you think and the way you see things, what Bob is saying. When you open up your lens and your perspective of how you see yourself, everything changes. And what I love about you, Bob, you're always full of energy. You're always vibrant. And I think increase in energy too is huge. What Going back to what you just said about your family and everything that you do, I think what many people, they want everybody else to them around them to change. But what I see is you changed and then everything else that followed changed. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, it's like my wife. If she has such a vibrant, positive personality, when she walks in a room, it's almost like the lights seem like they go brighter, because her personality and her glow brightens up a room. Well, in the invisible arena, that's what an increase thinker does too. When they walk into a room, they literally change the atmosphere of that room. And
Mm.
that's what's so powerful about it. Because, see, in life, we do not get what we want, we get what we are. We attract what we are, not what we want. And so when I become an increased thinker, I'm attracting increased friends, increased ideas, increased thoughts, and my whole life takes on a different dimension because now I'm magnetized to bring increase into my life, not negativity and scarcity.
I want to ask this because a lot of people, just the other 2 weeks ago, I did a vulnerable post on social media, and because a lot of times, right, people think, oh, Daniel, you got it made, and you teach on these principles as a millionaire mind. But the truth is this: is that we still get adversities. How has thinking an increase helped you when hard times come? How has thinking an increase helped you? Because the question isn't is if adversity is going to come. We all get adversity, but what's the difference between the old Bob and the new Bob of Doctor Increase when you handle adversity when those times do come your way?
Oh, all the difference in the world. I've had adversity. I've come 45 minutes away from losing everything sitting in a courthouse. I've watched 2 wives die, take their very last breath, and then have to rebuild my life after that. So increased thinkers are not necessarily immune to adversity, although I think increased thinkers can have less adversity because of the way they live their lives. But when we become increased thinkers, we take Bible principles, this is one of the keys I teach on, and we can apply them into our lives. And so one of the ones that really helped me is a verse in the Bible, Philippians 4:8, and it says, if there be any good, think on these things. And so when I go through any adversity, I try to say, all right, what is the positive I can think of this? What can I pull out of this? And I remember when my first wife died. I mean, I married my childhood sweetheart, married for 37 years, 5 children, and boom, she's gone. And you can't imagine what a person deals with when they go through that kind of loss. And all of a sudden, I took that verse. I said, okay, you have this big loss, but what do you still have? Focus on what you still have. You still have health. You still have 5 children. You still have all your grandchildren. You still have the seminars where you're impacting people's lives. And so because I was an increased thinker, I was able to change the focus from the loss over to what I still had and rebuild my life on that.
Ladies and gentlemen, take note of what he said. He didn't say 5 years married. He didn't say 10 years married. He didn't say 20. He said 37 years married. Some of you, you lost something, someone, a job along the way, and you stopped going forward. And you're waiting for God, but the reality is God is waiting for you to keep moving forward.
Oh, that's so good.
Listen to what Bob said. 37 years. When you said that, what came to my mind, Bob, was this: is that me and Marty just completed 30 years together,
Wow,
and
congratulations.
I couldn't imagine life without her. But 37 years, it's like it's not an easy thing to overcome, and I want to admire you and just acknowledge you for that. So, ladies and gentlemen, write down right now. Write it down. What am I holding on to that I've lost that's hindering me from going forward? What is an action step that you took, Bob? Because you're resilient by nature. I know you, right? You're that guy that goes forward. If someone doesn't have the mentality of a Dr. Increase, what's one or two action items that they can do, steps to go forward to? Maybe they got fired, right? Maybe I know I talk to people and they're still not over COVID. They're still not over a lost one they loved. And I get it. I understand that. I'm an orphan myself. It's part of life. But some people just can't get out of that stuck. What's one or two things you would recommend that somebody can do to start taking that step forward?
Well, first of all, I would say you're not stuck with the personality and the thinking that you have now. Thinking can be changed. And when you change thinking, you can change your life. I mean, my biggest regret is that my first wife did not get to live with the Bob Harrison that I am now, because I used to be fairly negative. I used to be a scarcity-minded thinker, and I think of the pressures that I brought into our marriage, into our home because of that. Uh, and so I would say, but I chose to change. I chose to pay the price of change. And the key is all change involves discomfort. And
Mm.
people that want to avoid discomfort will avoid change, but in avoiding discomfort and change, they avoid growth and they avoid moving on with their life. So you have to get to the point that you're willing to go through a temporary season of discomfort in order to come emerge on the other side of comfort. It's like a caterpillar is willing to go into the discomfort of the cocoon in order to come out on the other side a butterfly. And the caterpillar can't go from a caterpillar to butterfly. It has to go through the cocoon. And that's a temporary season of discomfort where we grow and where we change. And so I think the real key is we have to recognize that. Then we have to decide, what is it we want to change? Identify what are the things that's holding me back? Is it my negative attitude? Is it hurts that I haven't dealt with? What is it? And then we get on a program to deal with that specific area one at a time. And each time we do that, we break that power off of our life, we become a better person.
What you just said reminded me of something I learned from you, and it actually helped me. And the way I say it is, I say it, I belong with the elite. I remember you sharing a story that you got invited. I don't know if it was with General Schwarzkopf, but you were in a ballroom. And right next to that ballroom, there was another ballroom. And you had a choice to stay in the ballroom where you knew everybody, where the conversations were
Yeah.
at this level, or you had a choice to go into the ballroom with General Schwarzkopf and where the conversations were different. And I remember you said this in your teaching. You walked in and there was a part of you that thought you didn't belong, but you stuck it out, even though it was uncomfortable, and you wanted to go back to the other part of the ballroom where the other people that you knew were there, but you chose to stay in that conversation with Schwarzkopf and with Zig Ziglar and all these other people that you were meeting. What changed in Bob Harrison in that moment that you can give us just a life
That,
lesson in that wisdom?
yeah. That was a major event. It was called the Washington National Charity Event. And it was organized, and I mean, it wasn't just Schwarzkopf. We had VIPs in there, former congressmen, senators, people like this. And we went through all the trouble of flying there, and I became a table host. And there's an increased thinking story. Can we do a story? Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, so I get invited to go there, and at that time, it was $1,000 a person, which was a lot of money to me. In today's money, that'd be like $2,500 a person. So I'm having to pay $5,000 just for the two of us to go, and I'm thinking, oh no. And this person says, Bob, I really think you should come. There's going to be a lot of VIPs there. You're wanting to expand your seminars. You're going to get to meet some of them. And so I said, okay, we'll go. Then he said to me, I think, you should consider being a table host. And I said, what does that involve? And he said, well, if you're a table host, you get to come in an hour early to a reception and you get to take pictures and meet all these people personally. I said, wow, that sounds really great. I said, how do I become a table host? He said, you just have to buy 10 tickets instead of 2. So now I'm looking at $50,000. I mean, that's out of the world. But see, an increase thinker doesn't look at a big problem. They break the big problem into little pieces. So I said, I don't need 50,000. I just need 4 other couples that I can get to go with me that'll pay their own way. So I got on the phone and I got 4 other couples to pay their own way. I had the 50,000. I became a table host by only buying 2 seats on my own.
I love it.
Yeah. So we go through all this trouble, and I'm standing at the door as they open up for that lobby. And when they open up the doors, I cannot tell you the feeling I was feeling as far as, you don't belong in here. You're not one of them. You're a phony if you walk in this door. You need to go back out into the lobby and visit with your friends who you brought to here. And at that moment, I had a decision to make. Was I going to live the rest of my life in the comfort of where I was? Or was I going to break through and go to the next level? And I remember I turned to my wife and I said, come on, honey, let's sick 'em. That was my exact words, because that was the attitude I had to have. And with that attitude, I just walked in that room and started acting like I belonged there. And as I acted, feelings follow actions. So as I acted like I belonged there, I started to feel like I belonged there. And of the people I met, one of them was Pat Robertson, who later had me on the 700 Club. So you just never know what's going to happen. But the key is you have to sick them rather than go back to where you were.
Are you an aspiring speaker? Do you have a book that you've been wanting to write for months, maybe even years? Or are you an aspiring podcaster? You want to start that podcast like the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show and don't know where to start? Well, at Daniel Gomez Enterprises, we can help you do all 3. We can help you become that paid speaker, share your story to the world, write your book, and get your podcast launched and help you produce it. We'd love to help you. Give us a call at 210-663-5954. That's 210-663-5954. We can help you become that paid speaker, write that book, and launch your podcast. We'd love to hear from you. Give us a call now. Think about what he's saying, ladies and gentlemen. What dinner party have you been invited to? What event have you been invited to? And you had a sense of not belonging. Remember, all that you need, God's already qualified you. God already qualified you to go into that room. God already qualified you when you were born. So why are you disqualifying yourself? Listen to what Bob said. Sick 'em. Go get it. You have a choice. You have a choice to run back to the familiar, or you have a choice to run to your destiny. And thinking back now to that day, Brother Bob, what other, besides being on the 700 Club, what other blessings came out of you having that attitude? You know what? No, I belong there. What other blessings have come out of that come to mind?
Well, it changed my whole thinking. It wasn't but a few years later, I'm traveling now, speaking at success seminars, and I'm sharing the stage with world leaders. I mean, there was one day I had lunch with the former prime minister of England, and I had dinner with the former president of Russia. I mean, I could have never had that, been comfortable in that and had those kind of meetings if I hadn't sicked them back years earlier. And so there's a progression that we go through, and it never stops. My new wife is a wealthy philanthropist, and now I've had to go through that in my life in another level. And so growth never stops, because when growth stops, we stop. And so that's what's really exciting. But I want to say to the people, and I don't want to lose this, the real key to increase is having a passion to being a blessing to others. Because if we get focused on self, that's not what it's all about. Sure, we're going to get blessed and we're going to increase. But as we focus on being a blessing to others, it's like the example you shared on your fingernails. When you trimmed your fingernails, the nails didn't stay trimmed. They grew back and you had to trim them again. Your hair, when you get a haircut, it doesn't stay short. It keeps growing and you have to get another haircut. When we become givers, increase-minded givers, that's what happens. Our finances keep growing just like our nails and our hair, so we can keep giving and being a blessing to others. And when that happens, there is an excitement, a vitality, that comes into our life. I can't describe it, but I get so excited just to wake up in the morning and to think what a difference I can make today because I have another life, another day to live.
That was powerful. I needed to hear that. We somehow we think we can outgive God. Don't we? It's like, right? We have the illusion that, man, can I really give that much? And the truth is this: is that, ladies and gentlemen, maybe God's tugging at your heart, like He's been tugging at my heart, to increase your giving, to increase being a blessing. Think about it. You're not meant to be a stagnant water. You're not meant to be a pond. And what Bob is saying, when the flow comes in and the flow goes out, that you become a bigger and bigger river, that it increases. Let me ask you this, Bob. What is the best business advice that you've ever received to help you increase to the next level?
Oh my goodness, to nail it down to one advice. That's a tough one. I've never been asked that question before, and I've done a lot of interviews. That's very By the way, I wanna say it's refreshing to be interviewed with you because, your questions follow the answers, and, so there's a flow to it that is just really exciting. The best business advice that I've had, um, probably, and I can't identify it to a person, but it's a concept. We had something really funny, we do an increase event in California every fall. And so one of the sessions, I had scheduled this VIP person to do an interview with him and share his secrets of success, what he did when he ran out of money building the building, what decision did he make, how did he overcome that? Just I had all these questions ready. And so when I started to do the interview, he said, "Well, before we start, I'd like to ask you a question." And he asked me a question. And then the whole interview switched and it ends up he interviewed me instead of me interviewing him. And it was really, really kind of fun. But he said, "What do you consider to be the greatest advice you could give somebody on long-term success? What is the number one key?" And I tried to think about what would it be? An attitude of change? If we don't change, we get left behind? Is it being positive? What is the most important key to long-term success? And as I thought about it, I just said to him, probably more than anything else, it's stability. It's thinking in terms of having deep roots. It's thinking in terms of thinking long term and not short term. I said, because if you have an attitude of change and you don't have stability, then you're gonna all over the place. But if you have an attitude of stability, then you change on top of that. Now that's got direction to it. And so I would have to say that the greatest advice I'd have is try to have stability. Stability financially, stability in your character, stability with your health. And as you bring stability into your life, now you have a foundation that everything else can build upon.
Yeah. What came to mind when you said that, I thought of an eroding foundation of sand. And so many people try to build a business or they try to build a life on sand, and those people don't last that much in business. They don't last that long. Because they can't. The first 2008 event happens and they're out of business. COVID showed a lot of instability in some businesses, and unfortunately, they're not here. But I think about what you just said, and for me, the stability was God being first, God being priority, and because of that, when many businesses were going downward, we went upwards in 2020, 2021, because as you're saying that, we had this stability in our foundation of God. And I think that's very powerful from what you just said, because so many people, they can win 1 month, they can win a quarter in business, they can win a season, but where are they at a year later? Where are they at 2 or 3 years later? And where are they at 5 years from now? And many of those people, you don't see them anymore. And you've been how long, right? Y'all just celebrated 40 plus years of increased events. That's stability.
And they're not dwindling. I mean, we sold out. We had one of the best events we've ever had this year in California. But I would say the life that I'm living now, I saw this life 30 years ago. I planned this life 30 years ago. There's no guarantees. This accident thing's going to happen. We don't plan. But if we don't make a plan, nothing's going to happen. But I planned this life over 30 years ago with my health, with my habit patterns, with the areas of my life. And I'm living an incredible life right now, not by accident, but by design and divine direction. I don't want to take God out of this because that's a key part of my life, but design and divine direction. And so I would say to those that are watching, where do you want to be in 20 or 30 years? And what change do you need to make now to arrive at that destination in 20 or 30 years? Because if you don't make the plans, you're not going to arrive there. If you make the plans, I can't guarantee it. But if you don't make the plans, you're definitely not going to get there.
I love what you just said. I see this so much. So many people, they have a winning season. They have a winning book. They have a winning event. And then because they don't receive at those higher levels, I call it receiving at those millionaire levels, those multi-millionaire levels, because they don't receive at those higher levels. They say what you just said, and I love what you said. They think it's an accident. And because they think it's an accident, they go downhill from there and they never repeat the success they had in the prior event, the prior years of business, or just that success. So many people will win and they believe it's an accident deep down inside. And I love what you said. Your winning was not an accident. Go deeper in that and please take us to another level of how that's not an accident, Brother Bob.
Okay, if you look at the successful companies and people, they're the companies and the people that constantly have had to reinvent themselves. In other words, what made them successful 20 years ago isn't going to make them successful now, but they can take the roots of that and then they reinvent themselves to become something else. The club that we belong to, they do 4 seminars a year where they have club members share. And it's really interesting. And last fall, or last spring, one of them was one of the head guys of Uber, Ron Sugar. And he shared how when COVID hit, all of a sudden their calls for cars just nosedived. And they have all this overhead. They have this network. And now it looks like, what are they going to do? Because COVID is going to shut them down. And one of them came up with this idea, or actually it was Ron, came up with the idea, well, people, if they can't come and ride cars, we can have the cars taking things. So they took a little division called Uber Eats. And they said, let's advertise and build on that during COVID. And that not only caused them to survive, Uber Eats now is bigger than Uber. So
Really?
that's the response we have to have. See, and so that's the way increased thinkers think. We're always looking, we always know that there's an answer out there. One of my favorite teachings is out of 1 Samuel, and it talks about the prophet arriving at the house to anoint one of Jesse's sons. And he goes in there and he goes and stands in front of all 7 sons, and God says, no, 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 no. So he's been told to go somewhere to find success, and all's in the room is 7 no's. And I said, what do you do if all you find is a room full of no's? Well, most people will say, well, maybe I missed it, or they'll accept their no's. But see, increased thinkers ask what the prophet asked. And he said, is there an answer here that's not in the room? Is there an 8th son? And he said, yes, I have a son, David. He's not here. He's out tending the sheep. The answer existed, but it was not in the room. And so we have to take ourselves out of the room of our normal thinking because the answer we're looking for is already there waiting for us.
Boom, baby. I love it. I love it, right? Sometimes we got to dig a little bit deeper, right, Brother Bob? We got to dig a little bit deeper. And so many times we get a no, another no, and another no, and we give up. That's wisdom. Ladies and gentlemen, listen to what he just said. You've been praying for an answer, and it's not looking the way you think you want it to look. And because it didn't look the way you thought it was going to look, you've given up, or you said, I miss God on this. No, you didn't miss God. Did you ask God, how is it supposed to look for me? Because we want it to look a certain way. It's not going to look that way. Jesse was looking for a muscular, strong, handsome young man to anoint. but what he found was a shepherd boy outside, smelly and stinky. And maybe the blessing you're praying for is looking totally different than what you expected. That's valuable right there, brother Bob.
And the
Let me
key
ask.
is that the key is your answer is already out there. You just have to find it. You have to get ready for it. Opportunity. Zig Ziglar, I've traveled with him for 20 years, and we shared the stage together. And he said, success occurs when opportunity meets preparation. And I love that one.
Yes, I use that one too, right? Success is when opportunity meets preparation. What is a scripture or a quote that you rely on times of adversity, Bob? What is a scripture or a quote that you rely on times of adversity?
I don't know that I have one. In my phone, I have key verses that I in our app, we have increased verses, and a lot of them deal with adversity. But I don't know that I have one in particular. It's a mindset more than it's a verse. That I know
Mm,
that God's got an answer for me. I know that my steps are directed of the Lord. I know that in spite of what I'm facing, that there's an answer there. And so that faith in God is what takes me through it, probably more than a verse. Uh,
yeah.
but my God shall supply all my needs according to his riches and glory. Whatever need I have, whether it's financial, relationship, or whatever, God can supply that need. And one of the things that's helped me in my life is a series of unexpected appointments where everything changed in one day. And so I'm always believing that when I need an answer, my one day is coming. And my job is just to be sensitive and ready for that one day to recognize that opportunity and then embrace it when it comes.
I love it. Man, I don't wanna let you go.
Yeah,
You you
we've had
you
a
la
we've had a good time. But
So,
I will
ladies and
say
gentlemen, go ahead.
I will say this, you know, I have a lot of pictures of success that, I have a picture of my dealership that we did a miracle turnaround, took it from near bank. We had a crisis story. We took it from near bankruptcy to the top 10 in Southern California in 90 days. I've had a lot of great success, my state championship swimming medals and things like this. But the picture I'm the most proud of was last year at our wedding. It's a picture of 18 of my 20 grandkids, virtually all of my great grandkids and grandkids at our wedding. And to see 50 of my family, 4 generations, all serving God and all having successful life. That's my number one picture. And I would say that's the heritage that any one of us can have. That's the reward we get. It's not just up there, but the reward we get down here. When we change our thinking, we're going to be a blessing to others, but we're also going to get to live such a wonderful life full of joy and happiness and fulfillment.
The scripture that came to mind was heaven on earth. So many people recite it, and it's just habit. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And God wants to prosper us here on earth. So, ladies and gentlemen, Bob has these events twice a year in Hawaii, in California. Go to increase.org, look him up. Also sign up for he has a complimentary newsletter where he sends out these nuggets. So before we end this amazing conversation, I don't want to let you go. You always send out a nugget on Thursdays. Give us one of your nuggets that you want to end the show with, my brother Bob, if you don't mind.
I'll talk about that's so this is so directed by you. We didn't pre-plan this, by the way. Those of you that are out here, we're just spontaneously rolling. All right. When we were out to dinner in August, you talked about a nugget that really impacted you, and so I printed it in case it came up. And what we do, by the way, we take some story out of the newspaper, and then we start off with that, and then we teach a increase principle off of that story. And some people get it in writing, but most of the people get it in video, a 4-minute video that they get. But this is a Texas Ranger outfielder sprained his toe. Since he was experiencing pain, he went to see his podiatrist. An X-ray not only showed that his injury, but it also revealed that his toes were cramped from wearing shoes that were too small. The doctors told him he needed to increase the size of his shoes. When he did so, the next 7 games, he hit a home run every single game. So maybe the thing that is keeping you from hitting the home runs is you're wearing mental shoes that are too small. And if you'll make a decision to get bigger shoes, your life is going to take on a whole new dimension and you're going to start hitting home runs.
Boom, baby. There you go. Home run. Let's go. It's God is never late, Bob. God is never late. Thank you so much for being here with us, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna have all of Bob's information on our show notes. You definitely want to connect with Bob Harrison. Go out to his events. His next one's gonna be in April. You don't want to miss it. He just had one in California, so we'll have all that information out there for you. But connect with Bob Harrison. Bob, give us your website one more time to make sure we got the right website, if you don't mind, please.
Increase.org. Not too hard. Increase.org.
That easy, right? Increase.org. Thank you once again, Bob, for being an amazing guest.
Be with you, Daniel.
Ladies and gentlemen, get a copy of our newest book, Accept the Upgrade. Where are you not accepting the upgrade? Is it in your life? Is it in your finances? And you deserve it. Like Bob said, it's not an accident. When you accept the upgrade, it's a blessing from God, so you can be a blessing to others. Go on Amazon. It's available. And until next week here with another amazing guest, thank you for tuning in this week. We'll see you next time. And Bob, we love you, brother. Thank you once again on the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show.
Everybody say with me, I am of God's economy. No one's going to buy your product. No one's going to buy your service until they buy you first. I'm not up here because I did it. I'm up here because greater is the power behind me, which is Almighty God, than any task in front of me. Say this, I must open my heart to receive the message. See, the change has to happen here before it happens here. Because if you're here and you don't open your heart to what God has for you today, you're going to miss it. I want to anchor this in your heart. I want to anchor this in your soul. I'm going to leave here today with my heart empty because I'm going to pour it all into you.